Chapter 3, Politics. Politics means different things to different people, but I like to focus on policy. The same water that softens the potato hardens the egg. This is a mantra many may be familiar with, and it is meant to convey that the same external forces can have different impacts on people, depending on their personality or history. If we add more to it, then we can change the meaning entirely. The potato and the egg both want to be hard, each gets their own pot of water, but heat is not free. It is not the egg's fault for being born an egg, so it is unfair for the egg to have to pay for heating. However, the potato does not want or need heat, so it is not fair for the potato to pay for it either. Depending on your history or bias, you can interpret this analogy in several ways. Someone who cares about comparing the sexes might compare this to birth control, abortion, tampons, or pads. All things used by a certain subset of the population, and undesired by other subsets of the population, and it is hotly debated which things should be taxed, and which things should be covered by medical care. Someone who is struggling financially might view the analogy in terms of class. Corporations can easily pay a lower percentage tax than humans, and many economically disadvantaged people view that as unfair. Someone who doesn't have or want children might think about how much the government spends on public schooling, or daycare, or they might think about how many insurance companies and corporate benefits packages include childcare. A men's rights advocate might think about the discrepancy between paid maternal leave and paid paternal leave. Someone with a handicap could relate the heat in the analogy to wheelchair ramps, or buttons to open doors, or medical prescriptions. What I like about analogies is that I meant all of those things, and more. Phrasing it in the form of an analogy allows the reader or listener to find something that they care about that it relates to, so when I specify what I care about, they are more likely to be sympathetic. Importantly, I phrased it without offering a solution. I don't know what the solution is. Your answer to this conundrum likely indicates where you fit on the spectrum between capitalism and communism. If you think everyone should pay equally regardless of if they want or need the service, then you fall on the communist side. If you think that disabled people should pay for their own wheelchair ramps, then you're on the capitalist side. That harsh contrast makes me sound like a communist, but as mentioned previously, I don't think communism could ever actually work in human society. Very few people would want 100% communism or 100% capitalism, so it is just a matter of where you fit. Most people in Western nations will agree that the fire department, road maintenance, sewage system, and other infrastructure, such as signs and streetlights, should be paid for by the government, which essentially means that everyone should pay for them collectively. However, very few people think that housing should be paid for by the government. Where I draw the line myself changes depending on my mood. Some days I think about all the people I've known in my life who went years or decades without getting a paycheck, and I am angered and envious that my hard work is paying for their relaxation. Other times, I think about how horrible the places I've lived in were, and how much worse other people have it than that. I think about the growing homeless population and charities that try to help but end up just feeding into the cycle of dependency. I think about how nice it would be if this insidious, keeping up with the Joneses, attitude could be expunged from the outside. Maybe not entirely, but at least a bit. The discrepancy between a 250 square foot basement apartment versus a 10-acre forest-shielded detached house puts the failures of capitalism into harsh light. Robot slaves could be the answer to our economic woes. With automation, less work produces more resources. We've seen this for hundreds of years. Depending on how advanced artificial intelligence needs to become to fulfill humanity's demands, it could become an ethical issue. Another path to the future would be to build and live more sustainably. Instead of using landfills and having disposable packaging, we could focus on the reduce and reuse parts of the old reduce, reuse, recycle. Sorry for the short conclusion, the modern world is a complicated place to understand. Sometimes you fall into a rabbit hole of context and nuance, and end up digging into a lake of hypotheticals and what-ifs.